course, when I went on my trip to the natural grocers, I ended up picking up a couple sups. So I got some rhodiola
Subs.
extract and then some holy basil extract.
I'd usually do around 250 milligrams of the rhodiola, and then
Hmm.
there's different breakdowns of the rhodiola. So there's rosavins, salidrosides, and it has different effects.
Yeah.
But there's usually a breakdown of anywhere from 1 to 3%, maybe 4% of those extracts in part of the blend that
Yeah.
just comes naturally from the type of herb that you're getting it from, the rhodiola you're getting it from.
Hmm.
But they have different effect. One's more calming, one's more stimulating. And then when it comes to holy basil, I'd say it's about 500 milligrams, about
Yeah.
half a gram of holy basil. And then I would take something that's cold water extracted from that to make sure that everything is bioavailable so that our bodies are able to absorb it. But when it comes to dosages, that's where I feel like the good spot. I try not to take too much of anything that is going to cause my body to be dependent on it. I try and balance it out. So the holy basil is very calming and grounding, and the rhodiola is very um, focused. It's not stimulating like caffeine would be. It's more stimulating like it just gives you that grounded mental focus, gets you in the zone, it just makes you want to do something. And
Yeah.
then so that one I usually stick between 250 and 500,
Hmm.
but I'll do both. I'll do it depending on the day, but I've definitely noticed it. I'm not sure how you've been doing it because it's one of those things that I didn't notice right away, and then I noticed it a couple days in.
I know with a lot of these things, it's something that kind of gets built up over time. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people because they're just used to basically taking aspirin, for example, to make their headache go away in the next
You're right.
hour. And it's just much more different because it's a systemic effect. Things like caffeine, they can have direct ties to the neurotransmitter and receptor and take up space for things that would make you feel tired. Um, and I think that's kind of what rhodiola does a little bit. It's like anti fatigue. So you're
Mm-hmm.
able to stay more energized. Sleep has been pretty good. Energy level has been pretty stable overall, but being off caffeine at the same time has kind of blunted its
Well,
effects.
that's a new update. Whoa,
So, yeah.
whoa! You're off caffeine. That's like me being off porn.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Just for
Caffeine's
now.
okay though. Caffeine's not one of those things that's like bad.
Yeah.
As porn is way worse than caffeine, I would say. But
Yeah.
there's um there's a lot of ton of benefits to caffeine too. It's just about quality caffeine and body dependency, but caffeine's a superpower if you
Yeah.
use it correctly. Some of them feel differently, like caffeine from yerba mate has a different effect than caffeine from coffee. And I'm not sure, I know that a lot of the blends, a lot of like the energy drinks use green tea extract or they use green coffee bean extract, and they have their natural caffeine like that. Some just put in caffeine, whatever the hell that is. Who knows what kind of caffeine that is?
Also, through some of the research I've done with a theacrine and teacrine, I think that's probably how you pronounce it. What I looked at just briefly is they theorized that teacrine or theacrine, they it affects your same receptors the same way as caffeine does, except there's not as much of a reliance or tolerance built up to it. So those adenosine receptors that get taken up by caffeine, so adenosine can't act on the receptor to make you feel tired, for example. It's theacrine does the same thing, but in different dosages. You wouldn't want to match. If you're used to 250 milligrams of caffeine a day or something, you'd probably want to be more like 125 or 150 with teacrine or theacrine. Have you meddled with teacrine a little bit at all?
I've been taking it pretty consistently, very small doses. I don't have a scale. I
Mm,
only use I just use 1/8 of a teaspoon and kind of ballpark it around there.
mm.
So for my borderline assumptions, that's about 100 milligrams. Sometimes I'll do less. So it's very little. It's not jittery, but it's probably the one of the more noticeable things that I've been taking, where I can notice that there is some kind of stimulation and it's kind of like how I felt when I would take coffee, but it didn't give me that feeling of being wired. It was more of a feeling of being alert,
Hmm.
and my reaction time was up. And I haven't tested that. That's just what I felt, but I'm happy to test it. That'd be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
there's more of an alertness that comes without the restlessness that comes with caffeine. It's very hard for me to be relaxed when I would take caffeine. I would always need to be doing something either in my brain or physically while I was on caffeine, versus tea cream makes me feel more calm, but I'm also able to react fast. I kind of feel more stoic. It feels has a very stoic effect of like, yeah, you could go crazy, but you don't come off like you're like ready to burst out at the seams. You just have that ability inside you, but it's not going to be coming out anytime soon unless you're exercising or you're working on something diligently, or someone does something that you need to react to, or shit hits the fan and you got to, start bugging out. Who knows?
Yeah.
It is getting more common in pre-workout blends.
Huh.
It's not cheap, that's for sure, but that's probably
Yeah.
why it's not super adapted. But there are certain blends that are bringing it on, and it has different blends. There's 100% purity, and then there's like something in the 30s or the 60s and the 30% where you can get it. That's easier to blend it with liquids versus
Hmm.
taking it in the powder form. I personally blend mine every morning. I'll have my tea, my hot tea, which is like my way to like a bullet tea with grass-fed butter and honey, like local honey, and then I add into that different variety of herbs. It's always cacao, reishi, cordyceps, chaga, lion's mane, and then I do the teacrine, I do the ashwagandha, the rhodiola, and then I'll do some magnesium in there as well, some magnesium L-threonate. But that's been my go-to blend
Wow.
on a daily basis.
As you mentioned those, just the ADHD stuff went off in my mind, and I'm like, I wonder if this kind of stack would actually help people with ADHD, like
That's me,
clinical. Yeah,
allegedly.
yeah, I would definitely agree. Um,
Thank you.
Based on what you've told me, that your symptoms for ADHD, because we know it has been overdiagnosed, and of course, me when I met you, I was literally getting my psychology degree, so I was learning about ADHD. And yeah, it sounds like you definitely.
You're like, what the hell's wrong with this kid? I gotta
I'm like,
use you
okay,
as a lab,
yeah,
bring you in class, use you for extra credit.
yeah. I would told my professor, I'm like, oh, I just talked with this kid who had ADHD. Do you want me to bring him in sometime?
I'll bring him in.